Welcome back. This week I'm bringing you a not-so-brief history of Oryx. Be aware that this episode will be a long one, and will still only touch on what's found in the Books of Sorrow. For more information, I would suggest reading the books for yourself. I am Arash, first daughter of the dead king. I will chase my father's last screamed warning. I will know what changed the motion of our moons. If the end of the world is coming, I will understand why. Oryx, originally named Arash, was one of 3 proto-Hive sisters born on the gas giant Fundament, on floating continents built from the remnants of their destroyed homeworld. They were born to the Osmium King, who later went insane while dreading a prophesized event known as the Syzygy, where a massive tidal wave would destroy all of Fundament. Teox, a sterile mother and teacher to the 3 daughters, believed the siblings were too weak to retain their father's mantle, and would eventually fall prey to a rival kingdom. She made a pact with one of these rivals, known as the Helium Drinkers, to destroy the Osmium King and his family, and install her as regent or ruler of the court. The Helium Drinkers successfully destroyed the Osmium King, but his 3 daughters, Arash, Zero, and Sathona, managed to escape to the sea. During this time, Sathona discovered a worm that had used to belong to her father, which spoke to her despite appearing to be dead. After a year of travel, they came across an ancient yet technologically advanced ship they called the Needle. Zero wanted to sell the ship in order to fund a mercenary army and exact vengeance on Teox and the Helium Drinkers, but she was persuaded otherwise by Arash and Sathona. After working on the ship for 2 more years, they used it to descend into Fundament's core, also known as the Deep, hoping to discover a way to prevent the Syzygy from taking place. Only Zero's bait stars let us escape. Only Sathona's tricks let us reach the coast. But now that we have my ship, I must lead the way. I am the navigator. As they dove, they happened upon an enormous creature called the Leviathan, which warned the 3 sisters to turn back and return to the sky rather than choose the deep. The sisters, listening to the worms Sathona carried with her, decided to pay little heed to the Leviathan and continued with their dive. Eventually they came across the worms, Yul, Ir, Zol, Akka, and Claiming to be millions of years old, the worms had been trapped in their current location by both Traveler and the Leviathan. The worms offered the 3 sisters immortality if only they would allow themselves to be taken as hosts for the worm's larva offspring. The only catch was that, in order to feed and satisfy the worm, the sisters had to obey their specific natures. For Sathona it was cunning, for Zero it was testing her strength, and for Arash it was her need to understand. If the worms were not sated, they would consume each sister. The 3 sisters accepted the deal and took on new names. Zero became Zivu Arath, Sathona became Savathun, and Arash became Oryx, and in that same process became male and king of the Hive. They returned to the surface of Fundament and began to spread the worms among the other proto-Hive. They also drove Teox from the Osmium court and eventually built ships in which to leave their world entirely. The 3 powerful siblings turned their attention to the Ammonites, a race of intelligent beings that lived on one of Fundament's 52 moons. Furious that they had allied themselves with the Traveler and had given refuge to Teox, Savathun wanted to wipe all of them out. Oryx wished instead to negotiate with the Ammonites. Savathun saw to it that he was killed in punishment. Rather than to actually die, however, Oryx's soul was sent to his ascendant realm. Angry with himself, Oryx purged his body of any and all remaining sympathy and goodwill. He took up sword logic, the idea that the powerful are bound to consume and destroy the weak, alongside his sisters, and they spent years warring and killing each other in a never-ending battle. During this time, Oryx discovered that they had been tricked by the worms. The worms were becoming too hungry, and were nearing the point where they could no longer be sated by conventional means. Oryx met with his sisters in his throne world, where he slayed them both in order to consume their power. He returned to the deep, confronting Akka, the Worm of Secrets, and eventually killing the Worm God. In doing so, he received the power to take, and transformed into Oryx, the Taken King. Oryx unleashed war on the Taishibeth, a race of winged raven-like creatures. Alongside various lieutenants such as Kragur, the War Priest, Mengor, and Kra'adug, Oryx uses his new power to take the Taishibeth Emperor Raven, transforming it into a taken beast, and using it to drive the Taishibeth to extinction. The Taishibeth are only one of dozens, if not hundreds, of races destroyed by the Hive. Sometime after these events, while in a war with another race of beings, the Yusumin, Oryx revived his sisters. He founded the tithe system, where weaker Hive would sate the worms of their more powerful brethren. Thralls would tithe to acolytes, acolytes would tithe to knights and wizards, and so on. Each Hive would feed their own worm and give the remaining sustenance to their better. A river of killing would flow, with the majority given as tribute to the three siblings. And thus the tribute will flow up the chain, so that Savathun and Xivu Arath and myself will be fed by a great river of tribute, and we will use that access to feed our gods, and to study the deep. Thus all worms will be fed, as long as we continue our crusade. This is my law, I carve it thus in ruin. These carvings would then become the Tablets of Ruin, a list of decrees and truths. Oryx eventually decided that he needed to sire his own spawn, Crota and the Deathsinger twins Ur-Anak and Ur-Halak, the latter two of which were cut from a single worm larva. The spawn of Oryx grew and learned, with the sisters eventually discovering the idea of the Oversoul. At this time, Oryx's son, Crota, was fooled by Savathun into cutting a portal through Oryx's ascendant realm, while his father was once again visiting the deep. An alien race of machines called the Vex poured in, and Oryx's three siblings warred with them for approximately 100 years. Eventually the war became so desperate that the worm god Eir called for Oryx to return and put an end to the threat. Oryx used his power to take the Vex, clearing his home of the intruders. Furious with his son, he banished Crota to the Vex network of gates, demanding that in order to return he must be victorious or die a forgotten death. Crota came to respect his father's wish, and during this time he built various temples to Oryx. In doing so, he began supplying his father with food for his worm, eventually achieving godhood himself. I am Oryx, the first navigator, the taken king. Ayat, let me be what I am, because to be anything else would be fatal. Oryx built his ship, the Dreadnought, from the body of Akka, the worm god Oryx had slain for his taken power. He did this to avoid another incident with the Vex machines invading his throne world. However, as he raided a ship belonging to the Harmony, a dragon-like species located on the planet Anna Harmony, he was attacked by the Vex Access Mind Hydra, Quaria. In a last-ditch attempt to overcome the all-too-powerful Oryx, Quaria displayed for him a Vex simulation of how he had appeared as Arash hundreds of years ago. She did this hoping to understand the Hive and spread the information she gleaned of Oryx's past along to the Vex Hive mind. Oryx, meanwhile, found the simulation amusing, conversing with his former self. Arash, for her part, felt nothing but horror at what she had become, and demanded to know what Oryx had done to his sisters and to his people. Oryx destroyed the Vex mind, presenting the body and what remained of the simulation to Savathun. It was after all of this that Crota, son of Oryx, was slain by the Guardians within the Hellmouth, his own ascendant world. In grief, Oryx brought his taken army to the solar system within the Dreadnought, blasting a hole through the rings of Saturn and obliterating the awoken forces, including Queen Marasov. His army attacked Cabal forces on both Mars and Phobos, an event that the Guardian was sent by the Vanguard to investigate. After discovering a way to transform into an Ascendant and gain passage to Oryx's altar, his physical form was destroyed by the Guardian. His soul, however, retreated back into his Ascendant realm, or throne room. While his shades continued to wreak havoc throughout the solar system, Oryx continued to grow in power. Upon his final confrontation with a fire team of 6 Guardians, Oryx was slain with his own captured light. All that was left behind was his ravenous heart, which was used by Eris to craft the weapon Touch of Malice. This was intended by Oryx as the only way for him to achieve true immortality. I will go on forever. I will understand everything. There is only one path, and that is the path that you make. But you can make more than one path. If I fail, let me be worm food. Thank you for checking out a not-so-brief history of Oryx. If you would like to see more videos like this in the future, let me know in the comments section below. I would also like to take this time to direct you to both my Twitter and my Facebook pages, both of which can keep you updated with all the latest content and ramblings from yours truly. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope to see you next week.